Ladies and gentlemen, I will start this fantastic event by just giving some housekeeping rules, and then we'll move quickly on to the panel. Thank you very much for joining us for part 4 of our 4-part COVID online fitness and wellness summit. Our job has been to try and dissect and explore some of the strategies and challenges and opportunities that are now impacting and affecting our ecosystem, whether that is fitness, wellness, hospitality, sports. We've selected a number of speakers over the past 4 events. First up, I'd like to a very warm thank you to all of our speakers for these past 4 events, and also our sponsors and exhibitors. They've all taken a leap of faith with us in ensuring that we have a fantastic virtual platform to build on, and to build on we shall. I'd also like to thank my team, my colleagues. They have been rocks, absolute superstars in helping us build this platform and to connect thousands of executives over these past 4 events. For those of you unfamiliar with Hopin, on the right-hand side, you'll see a chat box. By all means, you'll see 2 chat boxes. One is the general event chat and a session chat. We're in the session chat at the moment. Feel free to leave your name, your number, even your LinkedIn URL, and people can connect with you there. There's also a poll section highlighted in the top right-hand side of your screen. There's about 6 poll questions there. Please do take time to answer those polls, and we will email the poll results as well as the session recordings to you first thing on Friday morning, only 36 hours from now. On the left-hand side, ladies and gentlemen, you'll see the icons for Hopin. We are now in sessions. These are interactive rooms, if you will, where we'll have a number of content. 5 sessions make up this one particular event. This keynote session, we then have a half-hour break. We then have 3 individual sessions to choose from: marketing, sports, or investment. And we finish the day on a wellness technology session, which will be very interesting. The expo is open all day. The networking face-to-face is open all day. You can come and go as you please. Please make use, please have fun of the platform. After this one event, we're going to take a small break, and our next event will be in August, and we'll share details of that one particular event with you very shortly. Right, let's get stuck in. Let's get straight off, as they say, and off to the races. We've got a fantastic panel, ladies and gents, from across the world joining us today. Danny Yueng, CEO of Prenetics, is joining us from Hong Kong. Remi Nodet, CEO of Exerp, is joining us from Denmark. Ryan Hogan, CEO of Les Mills Asia Pacific, is joining us from Australia. And Shamik, Head of New Ventures and New Initiatives, is also joining us from India. The 5th Musketeer should hopefully be online shortly, and that will be Jim Huether. Jim is CEO of Hyperice, based out of the US, and we'll have Jim join us in just a few minutes. What I thought would be useful, ladies and gents, is to try and give each of these gentlemen a quick 30 seconds to introduce themselves, who they are, who they represent, a little bit about their company, and then we'll get a little bit more into the nitty-gritty with some conversation. Danny, if I could just ask you to take the baton first, please, and introduce yourself and your company.
Great, thanks, Ross. Really great to be here today. So a little bit about Prenetics-wise, we started about 5 years ago. So we're now a leading genetic testing and digital health company, operational in about 10 countries, 150 employees globally. Recently, we've also now are doing COVID-19 testing in the UK and in Hong Kong. And actually today happens to be the start of the Premier League season. And so we've been actually playing a big role in that, as we're testing all the players and media and coaches for them when they enter the stadiums.
Thanks, Danny. Great introduction. Remi, over to yourself.
Yeah, I'm Remi. I'm a Frenchman living in Denmark. Been living in Denmark for 17 years now. And I've been CEO of Exerp. I started as a software engineer and been CEO for quite a number of years now. Exerp is a technology company. We're building and servicing a member platform for large fitness operators. We have offices in 3 continents, based in Denmark, but have offices in the US and in Australia as well. Around 100 people globally.
Thanks, Remi. Shamik?
Hi, folks. My name is Shamik. I work at cure.fit, which is one of India's largest health tech companies. We're about 4 years old, and we operate in many different verticals related to health. So besides fitness, we are also in mental wellness through meditation and yoga centers, clinics, as well as healthy food through dark kitchens that supplies food across India. Our primary business, though, is in fitness, and we run over 300 offline centers across the top 10 cities in India. And we also have, across all of our offerings, a lot of digital content. Our primary product there is called Cult Live, which is a series of both recorded and live interactive sessions that you can attend, and there's a charge for that as well. So it's a conglomeration of different verticals that forms cure.fit.
Thanks, Shamik. Ryan?
Ryan, I'm CEO of Les Mills Asia Pacific. So the Asia Pacific distribution of the Les Mills suite of programs, education, and equipment. Les Mills is a global brand, widely considered to be sort of the premier provider of group fitness solutions around the world. Been in business since 1996. So that's me.
Thank you, gents. What we've got here, ladies and gentlemen, is a broad spectrum of those people operating across the ecosystem, from solution provider to sell-side products to operator, software, product content developers, a really eclectic mix across the ecosystem. So their perspectives on the challenges their company has faced and how they're navigating, not just through, but beyond COVID, is really what we want to try and dig into. Let's take the first question. And that first question has really been looking at the here and now of what each of these leaders have had to do with their companies. Danny, let me start with yourself on this question. I know that there's a habit from some leaders and some companies to think of this period as being one of doom and gloom and uncertainty. I know that it's been one also of opportunity for Prenetics. Perhaps you could talk us through the past couple of months where you saw the opportunity and how you've navigated through the crisis.
Yeah, so certainly I think initially it was a big shock to everyone, right? I don't think anyone expected this to happen. So within the company early on, we actually had to do no pay leaves, 1 day a week for a good portion of our staff. Right? So that was the one thing that we did early on. So certainly glad to actually say we've now stopped that piece of that operations. Then after that, when we looked at it from a bigger perspective, looking at our operational, our expertise, what we can actually do for COVID-19, we then decided that actually we wanted to play a major role in terms of contributing back to the community. Given that we own our own laboratory, we have the technical know-how, the resources, and certainly the funding to do this, we then embarked on actually providing real-time PCR at-home testing in Hong Kong and in the UK. So certainly right now, we've been able to partner again with the Premier League, Prudential, AIA, lots of private organizations in terms of providing a very cost-effective solution to get diagnosed with COVID-19. At the same time, we're also on the digital front. We're launching a digital health passport in conjunction with the Premier League to identify individuals going into the stadiums if basically they have been tested positive, negative, and their credentials in order to getting back into the stadium. And hopefully, eventually, we may use this platform as a means for fans to go back to the stadium as well.
Remi, I know, of course, a lot of your customers have been heavily hit over the last couple of months, almost going back to zero revenue businesses, furloughing a lot of staff. How have you yourself managed to maintain the company going forward, and what's your reflections on the past couple of months?
Yeah, we started looking at what was happening in China, and that felt pretty remote, from Europe. And all of a sudden it was in Italy, as you all know, that it was very close from home, and then we saw one of our clients shutting down all their operations, and then very few days later the whole Denmark shut down, and we had to send or tell our employees to work from home. So from one day to another, suddenly our world changed, and we were all working remotely. With a digital native company, so that that didn't create any really kind of problems for us. We were ready to do that. We saw our clients shutting down one after the other, and that was very much doom and gloom feeling. But then it moved on to a more, I think, innovative period where people started to think, okay, what can we do? We can't really, go any further down from here. So, people start being innovating and not afraid of having failures because, it can't really get any worse. So that was quite interesting. Now we're in the phase of reopening. So we've been crazy busy. We haven't furloughed any of our employees. We've been very busy assisting our clients through this period. And now we're focusing on reopening. And that, I have to say, that feels pretty good to be reopening.
Thanks, Remi. And it is great to see some green shoots now, and the reopenings are happening across Asia for certainly and across the world. And I think we're getting to a tipping point now where the good news is outstripping the bad, which is great to see. Jim, great to have you with us. Just following on from the question, if maybe you could spend 30 seconds or so just introducing yourself and Hyperice. And then the follow-up question is, how have the last couple of months been for you and the company, and how have you navigated your way to potential success? I think you're on mute, Jim. Hold on. There you are. Can you hear me? Jim, let me come back to you in a second. Ryan, the same question, if I don't mind you yourself. How have the last couple of months been for Les Mills? I know it's been very difficult, of course, with the clubs, your major businesses being closed, your trainers not being allowed to educate, of course, but there has been opportunity. Share more with that, please.
Yeah, I mean, it's similar to any supplier and who relies on an offline business. The clubs being open. It's been a difficult period. I share Remi's perspective on watching your customers shut and watching your customers long-term businesses having to close their doors, albeit temporarily, based on nothing that was their fault. And it is a really difficult thing to watch. For us, it meant we were in a very good position digitally and having a product, Les Mills On Demand, that was ready to be activated. It was already active in key markets around the world, and this crisis gave us a chance to really ramp that up. So if I speak to Southeast Asia, we only had it active in Singapore. Within the space of 3 weeks, it was available in most major markets across Southeast Asia, and that has been an enormous opportunity for us. I mean, our global subscriptions have been up 800% since the COVID crisis began. So that's been a real opportunity, and hopefully a real opportunity for our club partners to engage with the digital piece as well. So, difficult times though. Let's not put rose-colored glasses on here. This has been the most difficult time for the fitness industry in my lifetime. I think in any of our lifetimes.
800% increase, Ryan. Did that put any unknown pressure on the business? Of course, that's a huge ramp up in one vertical, right? So.
Yeah. But I mean, so all the guys who manage the software and the data centers and all of that had to work. We're working 24/7. I mean, you can also imagine a tech support team that is mainly based in New Zealand having to provide tech support all across the world. That comes with its challenges, right? So yeah, there was, I mean, kudos to the Les Mills media team based out of New Zealand who worked their backsides off to get markets going and to support with, in countries with language issues and cultural issues that we're not used to. It was a mammoth effort. And hey, the results are speaking for themselves. So really pleased with that.
Kudos, Ryan. Well done to the team. It's there is opportunity there, and you found it and capitalized on it. So I'm very, very happy for that to see for the team. Shamik, I know, of course, that you have multiple verticals yourself, and one of those big verticals, the gyms, have been closed. How has it been with the other verticals, and obviously putting more resource into opportunity there?
Yeah, actually, while the offline fitness centers have been all closed down, and India has been particularly hit hard, and the lockdowns have been quite severe, and they're still continuing. So that part of the business has taken a big hit, obviously. But fortunately, we were in multiple lines of businesses. Some of them have been affected as well. We run clinics across Bangalore, and those have been shut down as well. But on the other hand, our e-commerce businesses, including delivery of food, those products have done very well. And the biggest growth has been coming from our digital products, teleconsultations for doctors, nutritionists, therapists, and most importantly, our fitness classes online. Much like Ryan mentioned, the growth has been in the multiple hundreds of %. So that has just skyrocketed, and the surprise has been the willingness of people to even pay for it. We had it free for the first 2 months, and recently we started charging for it as well. And much to our surprise, a lot of pent-up demand is there as well, and a lot of people want to exercise, and the best option right now is either at home or nearby. So I think the fitness classes and group classes, especially, which is what we specialize in, will take a little while to recover. Yeah. But online classes, and I think monetized online classes, are the way to go in the short term at least.
Thanks, Shamik. Danny, returning to you, obviously there's been a couple of challenges your business has had to overcome these past couple of months. Never mind the pivot to a new product and a new service. What challenges have you overcame in the past couple of months? And perhaps maybe looking more forward than backward, what are some of the challenges that you're seeing on the horizon that you're planning for?
I think initially, I think for everyone, it was just a lot of uncertainty. Right? And so with uncertainty, then what you can't really plan for anything. But certainly, I think over the last few months now, we've gotten much more certainty about basically the geography of where the most damage is. And then looking at our business operated, we've actually seen a significant increase in terms of people coming to our webpage. Right, even circledna.com, right? Because we have a direct-to-consumer genetic testing tests and really focus on health and prevention. So we've actually seen, at least definitely within the last 60 days, a big uptake in terms of people trying to understand health and certainly prevention. So all along we felt basically prevention is the future of healthcare, and so certainly we've had that product, and then so certainly from a sales perspective, we've seen the uptake in the last few months, right? So as more and more people are going through COVID, I think health is now top of mind. So I think we would just certainly be in the right position aspect for that piece.
Thanks, Danny. Remi, of course, you've had challenges. Your operators, your customers have challenges. Perhaps looking at it from your own company's lens and some of the operators' lens, what are going to be their challenges for the next few months?
Yeah, I think in the countries where the government lockdowns have been effective and where public confidence is back, I think it seems like members are coming back to the clubs and relatively confident. Maybe in some other areas, the member public is not quite there. There's going to be some work to do to get that trust back and make prove that you can operate clubs safely and have your members come back and being safe. I think there's a big opportunity for everyone because in lockdown everybody has been sitting at home, and myself and some colleagues we've all noticed that we had less exercise, put on a little weight. So there's I think a big desire from everyone to get back and being active again. So I think that's a good opportunity that if all clubs can provide safe experience, member experience, safe and positive member experience, I think this it's going to be quite interesting to get businesses back on track.
Thanks, Remi. Ryan, of course, you've got multiple verticals. What do you think is going to be the challenge in getting everything up and running again? And of course, the challenges that some of your partners, both the operators and of course your instructors, are going to be facing?
Yeah, well, I mean, multifaceted, and I can actually speak for some markets that are already open. I'm fortunate enough to live in Australia, where in some shape or form, the fitness industry is open again, with the exception of one state. And it was very interesting for us watching over the last couple of weeks. Probably the biggest immediate concern is some instructors have moved on in this time. They've chosen to do other things. You know, they've decided that maybe the fitness industry was too risky. Maybe, you know, maybe being a casual contractor kind of thing wasn't for them, or perhaps the government subsidies are enough that I can, you know, do that for a while and not come back. So we're encountering that challenge, which was, I got to be honest with you, I think someone on one of these former panels mentioned that very early days of this, and I thought, oh, that's not going to be a thing, is it? And sure enough, it has been. So staffing, and because we're such an industry that relies on, and we're such a business that relies on you know, qualified instructors, is important. I share Remi's. I share Remi's perspective that countries that have a perception of having managed the disease well will, and also have their borders contained. So Australia, New Zealand, some examples, I think Malaysia and South Australia will be okay. Thailand seems to be Thailand and Vietnam, for example, seem to be sort of back to normal, you know, and normal, right? You know, within a certain context. So that really helps people come back to the gym, come back quickly. They haven't lost staff, you know, all of that. So the longer this goes on for in some markets, I think, safety aside, staffing is going to be a big challenge, you know, especially the casualized contractor, instructor, and trainer workforce. That's what I think the challenge is going to be.
Staying on that, Ryan, do you think that part of the workforce will be lost forever? I mean, you've obviously been recruiting for Les Mills for years. Do you see any way of winning them back over, or do you think they're going for good?
Hey Ross, your guess is as good as mine. If I had to make a guess, I would say there's probably a percentage that we've lost. You know, and that would be the percentage of people that we're probably going to go sometime soon anyway, right? It's just that rather than going over the period of 12 to 18 months, okay, we've had COVID, we've been shut for 3 months. I've actually realized I don't want to be an instructor or a personal trainer or whatever anymore, right? And in this time, I've invested in something else. I've found another job. I've retired, whatever. That'll be a percentage. And then the others, I do believe will come back. And it probably mirrors consumer confidence, right? You know, I don't know, I can speak for Australia. First couple of weeks the gym's open, you're not exactly at 100% visitation, right? And we saw this in Hong Kong, we saw this in a few other markets. It takes some time to scale up, right? You know, not everyone rushes back on day one. And that's probably the same for staff, right? You know, over time, as presuming the disease continues to be managed well, confidence rises, and all of a sudden, as an instructor, I'm ready to go back and teach my class, right? Whereas maybe day one, for some, they're just not going to be up for it.
Yeah, I think Singapore opens on Friday for the first time in 2.5 months, so that'll be interesting. The protocols for reopening get released tonight by the Singapore government. That will be the benchmark as to what we're allowed to do in terms of F&B and retail. And for the next event, hopefully we can report back there has been pent-up customer demand. We will soon find out. Shamik, I know in India you've got a large workforce, especially relating to the physical gyms at CultFit. How have the challenges been at the moment, and what are the challenges going forward for the whole business, and of course for CultFit as well? I know that you're obviously trying to keep your staff engaged, but India seems to be going through this that hasn't quite hit the back end of the virus just yet. That's
correct. I mean, we're seeing we've had very stringent lockdowns since about mid-March, so that means it's been a slow, long, drawn-out climb as opposed to many other countries where the kind of virus hit at one go and peaked early. I think the peaks in India are still coming. So this has hit the offline fitness business very deeply. We've shut down our centers for now almost 3 months. We actually stopped some of the centers which were more in experimental areas in smaller towns and so on, and had to do some layoffs there. But in the main cities, we have retained all our trainers. We have redirected them to online training. So besides our live classes, which are sometimes get 10,000 members per class or more, we have a lot of personal training as well done online, and we have moved many of these trainers to that product. We also have a small group training where you can work out with your friends online product coming. And all of these products are keeping the trainers busy and haven't had a lot of staff churn so far. But you know, as the thing draws out and we don't know how long this is going to take, that might become a problem as well. The other thing we have done is that our training for our staff used to be offline. We used to bring them to Bangalore, and we have a large training facility where we used to train them. Over the last 3 months, we've actually moved all of that training online. That, I think, is going to be a long-term strategy, and it's going to have a lot of effect in how we're able to recruit people from many different places, and might actually affect the business model positively in the long run. And we found that to be quite effective, as we had to retrain a lot of people, you know, the large trainer base, on how to deliver instructions and classes online. We found even online training has been quite effective, especially you have protocols about how you assess them and how you monitor their instruction, etc. So that infrastructure is, I think, very important. As we are talking to players outside India to provide our technology and services, we think that this is actually going to be a core capability of how you manage content, how you manage online training and deliver it, which is going to be applicable at many places around the world, even after COVID.
Thanks, Shamik. Let's maybe take a look forward, gents. What's coming up in the next couple of quarters? What's coming up for the rest of 2020 and indeed moving into 2021 for you and the company? Remi, perhaps I'll switch things up and start with yourself. What kind of innovations have you been making behind the scene, perhaps iterations to the software, advancements, new developments? What can we expect from Exerp in 2020? And perhaps what are the longer milestones in 2021?
Yeah, so I mean, we've worked during the lockdown period on very much on reopening, and we provided, you know, functionality to control limit number of people in the club at a time, or be able to book your training sessions so that you don't come up to a club and realize that is full. So. And funnily enough, for example, in Denmark, we've been working hard on and together with our clients there to make sure everything was ready. But when it reopened without any restrictions, and that's probably because the epidemic is very low and dying in Denmark. Somehow no one really understands why. In Australia, there's heavy restrictions, and we've implemented a lot of booking of training sessions with our clients. So we've been quite busy with that, and it's quite strange to see so different reactions. Where two countries where the epidemic is really at similar, very low levels, and it's very differently handled. For the future, I think we'll have obviously more digital and more ways of selling. We have our clients are some of the largest operators around the world, and many are focusing, have their own websites and have been doing, being very digital for many years. But we can see that the bar for the digital is increasing. So there's a need for us to deliver, to deliver more and help them more to do more in that area. So we have we're focusing on that. We have also a focus on data, which has not changed. I would say it was important before, and it's still important. And that's the member experience is one area of focus for us, where we have on our websites apps. And the second part is data, providing data insights to executives, for example, faster, but as well to all your staff, down to the trainers, so they can see what their performance is and make sure that their view of their performance is aligned with the view of the business performance as a whole with the executives. So those are the two areas we're currently focusing very much on.
Thanks, Remi. Danny, over to yourself. Maybe first to comment on the landscape in Hong Kong at the moment and how it's opening up. And then following on to the question to Remi, What is the future for developing your own advancements, both in terms of the testing and with the DNA testing as well? So love to get your wider thoughts.
Sure, I'll speak first about Hong Kong, right? So I think Hong Kong-wise, while it was one of the earliest cities that was impacted by COVID, I think Hong Kong's actually done a really amazing job. There was never a full lockdown. It was only by phases. And then so certainly today-wise, everything's pretty much to normal everything-wise, right? They're going to be imposing a further lifting the restriction on the number of people that are gathering from 8 people to 50 people. Restaurants are all full, gyms are all full, so it's pretty much back to normal-wise, right? What I do see, at least, I mean, there's still going to be a lot of uncertainty, right? And just to share, I think relevant here is that a few days ago I was speaking to a friend who was actually a doctor in Japan. And then so he actually got infected with COVID-19 twice. And this was quite alarming, right? Because normally you would think if you get infected one time, you build immunities or antibodies towards it. So the interesting thing about my friend's case was that the first time he was infected, he was actually in Africa, right? And then so he went back to Tokyo, and then he's on the front line, helping a lot of patients with COVID. And he got infected again. And then, so most likely, it was caused by 2 different strains of COVID, right? So that's the scary part, right? Because basically, if you have different strains of COVID that you can actually reinfect-wise, then vaccine-wise, you're not going to be able to take 10 or 15, 20 different vaccines, right? Because there's so many different forms. So I think that it was quite alarming just from what that meant. But certainly that's one case, but it was an alarming case, at least from my side. So at least from what we're doing is, I think, for everyone, I think testing will become very, very normal for our daily lives, for sport or travel. Right now we're talking to a number of governments around the world in terms of how we can enable, let's say, airports for testing. On arrival, on departure, basically quicker turnaround times of, let's say 4 to 6 hours, and also making this accessible. That's certainly in terms of price points, right? So that's why even when we first launched here in Hong Kong, our COVID test was slightly under 100 USD for the whole end-to-end solution, which is very very competitively in price point, because we weren't looking at it from a profit perspective, but rather from how can we help the community, and if we are able to help long-term wise, I think everyone benefits. So certainly we're doubling down on testing, working with more organizations on a global perspective, and certainly working with governments as well.
What's your testing capability at the moment, Danny? Is there, how many tests a day just now, and how many tests a day are you hoping to get to by year end?
Yeah, so let's say, for example, our Hong Kong laboratory, which we own and operate, our current capacity is 5,580. We're looking to actually ramp that up to over 10,000 in the next few weeks, because we do expect quite a big surge once the travel bubbles open up to Macau and Shenzhen. And anyone that is able to leave or depart Hong Kong, you will actually need to present a negative COVID-19 test result. And then so certainly we're playing a role in that these efforts here.
I think Singapore has just announced their travel restrictions, and the testing is also mandatory for anyone leaving and entering the country on many cases. Shamik, let me bring you in just now. You've obviously had multiple verticals. Are you seeing more opportunity in some of these verticals now that you've had a chance to utilize them more in the past couple of months? And perhaps what are the kind of milestones for each of these verticals in the next couple of years?
Yeah, we are very, very bullish on online fitness training, and in all of its forms: recorded, live interactive classes, personal training, small group classes, and so on. And we've devoted a lot of resources over the last 3 months to bring that whole package of offerings together. It's almost like a Netflix of fitness, where you subscribe and different people like different variety of content, different lengths, intensity levels, and so on. So a provider that brings all of it together is one area that we are focused on. I think that one of the obviously success stories we all heard about is Peloton. And so people do like working out from home, But one thing that has been missing is the interactivity, and Peloton is offering that, obviously. But we think that there's many different forms of interactivity, and a lot of interactivity can be provided with very simple devices, whether it is your Fitbit or just placing the camera in front of you through virtual trainers and etc. And we think that over the next few years, that tech of kind of democratizing and reducing the $2,000 upfront fee that a Peloton charges and offering the similar kind of interactivity through much more affordable means is going to be a big factor in things going forward. And we think that this will actually affect our own offline experience as well through more screen-driven training, which makes the whole business model of having to put 20 people in a small studio, while that may change because of what we've gone through. I think a lot of these other technology-based solutions will be a big factor. So we've been investing a lot in all of that tech, and both for ourselves as well as now offering it to partners as well.
Thanks, Shamik. Ryan, I know that Les Mills have been very busy in the past couple of years innovating new content, innovating, of course, the online. Is it time for Les Mills to pause and try and consolidate some of these innovations, or are you still going forward? What's the roadmap for the next kind of year?
Great question. And a difficult one to answer clearly based on where I'm sitting and where we are right now. You know, I think I share my colleagues' sentiments by saying, well, we're tipping towards the end of the health crisis, perhaps in some markets, not everywhere. We've still got a long way to go to climb out of this. You know, we've got a long way to go to climb out of this, both on how it's going to shift our behavior and how and our consumers' behavior, and what's going to happen specifically to the fitness industry, right? Nobody really knows. I mean, everyone would just be making assumptions, you know, educated guesses. So what does that mean for us is from an innovation perspective? We've got a couple of products that we're trialing that we're trialing in New Zealand that's no state secret. And in fact, a couple of those products are being trialed in Hong Kong, and were being trialed in Singapore, of course, up until the Singapore market's been shut. How likely are we to commercialize those really quickly over the coming year to 18 months? I don't know. If I had to take a guess, I'd say there's probably a good 6-12 month delay in the process there, you know, to bring things out. Consolidation, I couldn't tell you. You know, I could speak for my internal business. You know, we're like everybody in the world, we're looking at cost optimization and have we got the right structure and are we fit for future? And we're using all these BS corporate terms like coming leaner out the other side and all of that. You know, synergy and all that kind of stuff. I'm joking, but you know, we're you know, this is a time for this is. I will use an off quoted term that this is a good time for a reset. You know, this is a good time to, you know, we've had, even though you know, we've all been working long hours to get through this. We have also had a little bit of time to reflect and a little bit of time to think, okay, where are we going to go? You know, and what if we had to get rid of one bit, or we had to invest in one area, where would you go? And I think that's giving us opportunity. I don't have the answer to those questions right now because we're right in the middle of that as we speak. So, yeah. Very waffly answer to your question, I guess.
That's okay. Yeah. I know, obviously, your remit, Ryan, is Asia Pacific.
Yeah.
In the next couple of years, obviously, with health and well-being being ever more on the consumer's mindset, do you believe that this could be the start of the next chapter for Asia in terms of penetration rates for customers using fitness and using wellness? Or do you think that Asia Pacific has a lot of opportunities still left in it for companies to come and access?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, and when you say Asia Pacific, of course, that's a broad. You know, you have the set where I live. You know, the southern bit of Asia Pacific, Oceania or Australia, and then you know Southeast Asia, and then moving up into China and Japan. Different situations in both markets, but across the board. I mean, health and well-being and healthy immune systems, which by the way is something that we can provide better, you know, the fitness industry can provide better than anybody else. You know, exercise is the one pill that we wish everyone could take to make their lives longer, right? I do believe there's opportunity. I don't look after China as part of my remit. Jane, my colleague who runs Les Mills China, very, very capable leader. the reports that are coming out of China are that actually gym memberships and access to health clubs is growing. It's growing because of the desire and the importance that people are putting behind being healthy, right, and having healthy immune systems and preventing disease, which is really what we do, right? We're in the preventative health business. So, if China's anything to go by, there's some optimism there. Other markets that we're looking around the world are seeing the same thing. There's certainly a consolidation of size of the market. Number of gyms, there's definitely we're seeing that's what's the word, rationalization. Or I don't know, another corporate term you can find. But those that survive seem to be doing, seem to be getting even higher subscribed than they were before. So yeah, I do think there's opportunity.
Thanks. Danny, let me pull you into this. I know obviously Prenetics started off as a Hong Kong company. You had great business roots into China, which you capitalized on very successfully. And then of course you launched your UK office. How global is Prenetics going to be in the next couple of years, or will your major focus still be on Asia?
Yeah, I think two parts wise, right? I think what we're seeing is strong growth in China, Southeast Asia, Hong Kong included, and certainly in the UK and Europe wise, right? I think these are going to be the markets that we'll continue to focus in, just because I think we already have quite a leading advantage within the market and consumer front. And there's only limited time on a daily basis. You can only focus on so much, right? So I think these are the areas where I think we will focus and continue to grow in.
Thanks. Remi, I know, of course, Exerp have a global portfolio of customers. What about Asia as a future market? Is it growth potential for you all the way here? And what are your thoughts on this as a region going forward?
It's definitely a lot of potential for us because we're not very strong. I mean, we have two fairly large clients in Australia, but that's and our office is a very small office in Sydney. So we see Asia Pacific as a region full of potential for us, but equally, North America is also full of potential. We've set up offices for a couple of years ago, and it's we're doing well, and we see a lot of traction there. Somehow the land of all the Silicon Valley in terms of fitness industry is actually not that technically advanced, so it's a little strange that the US would be, in terms of fitness industry, maybe behind, definitely behind Europe and Asia Pacific, I would say, in terms of technology in the fitness club. So that's interesting. I think there's potential for growth, definitely in Asia Pacific, North America, and Europe as well. I mean, Europe has high penetration rates in Northern Europe, but there's a lot of potential still.
And Shamik, just to finish off in this question, I know obviously cure.fit were very much an Indian company, but there is obviously massive potential now of you expanding your borders digitally. Where are you going to be targeting for any international expansion?
Yeah, we see that health, like Ryan mentioned, is going to be a top of mind factor, even more so in the coming months. And we already have expanded into the Middle East. We have a presence in Dubai for the last 6 months, even before COVID. But now we're looking at our digital content and our digital strategy being a global product. And we have just recently, I think just a couple of weeks ago, launched our app in the US, and slowly we'll try it out and go to other countries as well. And many times in many places it will be through partnerships, because our content will specialization, the lingo, the trainer base, etc., comes from people that we work with in many other locations.
Shamik. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got 10 minutes left, so if I can encourage you to put some of the questions in the chat, and I'll ask the gentleman the last question I have here before we move into some Q&A from the audience. Gentlemen, the last question I wanted to pose before we take audience Q&A is the importance of partnerships and collaboration. I think what we've saw over the past couple of months, of course, has been a huge rush or enthusiasm for companies to share knowledge, to share insights, to share painful lessons learned. And through that, of course, to try and plan better commercial partnerships, even strategic partnerships. Danny, let's start with yourself. How important have partnerships been in the development of Prenetics? And what type of partnerships are you looking to forge going forward? And any examples of best practice?
Yeah, definitely. Partnerships are critical, right? I think at a company our stage, 5 years old wise, right? Going from a few people to now over 100 people wise. I think in the past wise, we formed previously a lot of partnerships with, let's say, insurance companies when we were doing our B2B business. Now, when we're doing our direct-to-consumer business, we are looking for different types of partnerships which can add distribution. And certainly, when we think about partnership, it's really critical to see how we can add value to the other person's business. And because if we can't add value, then it doesn't make sense. Waste of time, right? So certainly, I mean, while you guys are talking, I just sent an email to Shamik to see if maybe we can do something in India, right? Because certainly, I think people are thinking more about personalization. And then so we have the tools for personalization, whether it's diet, nutrition, sports aspect. And then so I think you have consumers nowadays which are not satisfied just having a one-for-all, a one-size-fits-all method. And the more we can personalize, the better. And so certainly I love partnerships, right? But certainly it has to make sense for both sides. And same in case with the Premier League, and we partner with them, and we're able to get a lot of trust early on. A lot of times for the partnerships, I think best practice is not to focus on the monetization or the revenue aspect. Right? I think in many cases, the partnerships, you have to do it for free. Right? Yeah. Correct? You have to be willing to invest in your product. And you have a good product, after a pilot is successful, they'll come back. So certainly a lot of these partnerships, we funded it ourselves initially because we know we got a good product. Same with Premier League, how we got that, we started with a pilot first. And it's like, hey, wow, these guys have got it all together. And then so with that, I think the best practice, they don't focus on small dollars, focus on the bigger picture, the impact, the value add to all the different parties, and then go from there.
Thanks, Danny. Remi, Shamik, Ryan, any thoughts on your reflections on partnerships that you've had, that you're working on, that you're looking to grow in the future? Remi?
Our most important partnership is with Technogym, and that has been going on for 4 or 5 years now. And we can, with Technogym, we can have a full ecosystem, going from the equipment on the gym floor, the digital training experience with My Wellness, and the full, scalable member management platform. So, that's been, I think, a great partnership for those companies. But we also have partnerships with, for example, on the member experience with Function, with Exerp. So we're really working, we know that every business, every big club operator is different, and they have their own strategy, and they have to have the possibility of choosing what they want to work with. So we have a number of partners. Also in terms of, for example, marketing automation, we've partnered with a Danish company, specialized in marketing automation. So they're a vertical, horizontal supplier, and we think it's very interesting, experience that they can bring in the fitness industry. And we, for example, brought them in Australia. With one of our clients, and they expand. It allows them to expand globally, and we also can provide more value for our clients. So that's been quite interesting. In terms of payment providers, also we have a partnership with Adyen, which we think is been very, very valuable for us to be able to deliver one payment solution that works across the globe. So we have a number of partnerships in our vertical in the fitness industry to offer the possibility of choice to our clients, and also horizontal suppliers where in marketing or payment areas, for example.
Thanks. Ryan, of course, Les Mills are based on multiple partnerships. What's been some of the reflections from those and perhaps any new ones that you're seeking? I know, of course, you've touched into the hospitality world, so perhaps you could maybe give 1 minute of perspective.
I mean, I think everyone's shared really good practices on how to engage with partners. I'm going to take a slightly different angle to it. I consider our best partnerships are with our customers. We don't call them customers. In fact, we call them partners. We believe that when we go into a health club or a hotel or whatever, we can partner with them so that they get the best experience out of group exercise, which means they get the best return out of investment out of group exercise, which, by the way, is still the most profitable bit of square meterage in your health club. And by partnering that way, then actually the dollars that they spend on us don't matter, and also by treating them as partners, they treat us like partners. So it's a two-way street, right? There's information going in both directions. So that would be my little piece on partnerships, other than the obvious, Reebok and all the global partnerships around clothing and branding and stuff, which really elevates your brand to global standard. If you can make those work, right?
Yeah. Shamik, maybe just a quick answer about partnerships on the cure.fit perspective.
Yeah, I mean, our partnerships are two-way. One of them is on the supply side, where we actually talk about licensing content from different players, including Les Mills, and music from various music providers for our digital content. And on the demand side, we are actually, just like Danny mentioned, we are talking to insurance companies, ERP companies like Exerp that Remi has mentioned, where we can provide our content on packaging of our solutions to fitness centers. We're also talking to global fitness players offline that want to have an online presence, and we can provide our technology and services to them to make it an omni-channel experience. The problems that we have solved, I think, will be global in nature, and other partners are going to be interested in the same.
Thank you, gents. Okay, we've got a couple of minutes left, so we're going to try and answer a couple of questions, but only with a one-line answer, gents, if we can possibly do that. One of the questions from the audience: do the panelists think governments are going to support the industry more, given that COVID seems to affect the unhealthy in a larger proportion? Danny, are we expecting the Hong Kong government to support health and fitness more than before? Yes or no?
Yes, I do.
Remi, from a Denmark perspective?
I think it depends a little bit on the countries. In Denmark, yeah, that was one line.
Ryan?
Country specific. Yes in some and no in others.
Okay. And Shamik, India, do you think that the Indian government will start to put more resource behind health, fitness and well-being?
In the long term, yes. In the short term, it's difficult. It's financially in a crunch.
Okay. Last question, gents. One-liner if you can as well. What is going to excite you most about the future landscape of our industry? Danny, one line or one word. What's going to excite you most about the future market?
I think in general wise, right? I think, yeah, certainly COVID is not a good situation, but certainly it's accelerated the demand for health and people's mindset, at least by 3 to 4 years, right? In terms of people's adoptance, I think more and more people will be doing all sorts of different tests at home, telehealth, digital aspect. These are all going to be key things now and in the future. Thanks, Danny. Remi?
Yeah, I'd say maybe the will to innovate and test, the willingness to try out things. If that spirit of lockdown where everybody's started to see and find new solutions, if it can sustain a little longer, I think it would be quite exciting and things with innovation will accelerate in the industry.
Ryan?
I believe what excites me the most is finally the merging of online and offline in fitness. I think this is I'll quote Emma again, Emma Barry, a good friend of mine. This is the seminal moment for digital for the fitness industry, and the ability to be able to extend that beyond when the doors open is very, very exciting.
Thanks. And Shamik?
Yeah, the keyword I would use is omni-channel, and I mean that in two axes, both, like Ryan mentioned, offline integrating with online, and on the horizontal axis, fitness integrating with wellness and clinical services. So that becomes a holistic omni-channel experience.
Very much, gents. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the first session. A very warm thank you to each of the panelists. I know that we didn't get Jim on from Hyperice, but I'm going to be doing an interview with Jim directly one-on-one, and that will be put in the recordings on Friday morning, so you'll still get to listen and hear from Jim. We're going to break for 30 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. In this break, have a stretch, have a coffee. If you can, answer the polling questions as well. And at 3:30, in approximately 30 minutes, we'll go back into these sessions and you can choose from the 3 sessions. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause to Danny, to Remi, to Ryan and Shamik. Gents, thank you very much for your time. Ladies and gents, we will leave you just now and we'll see you later on. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Russ.
Bye-bye.